Good morning, folks. After months, we come back to a major concern today. We'll look at news from beneath our feet out into deep space, starting with the last 24 hours on our star at spaceweathernews.com. We find the last day on the sun was relatively quiet. On the south, amidst the coronal holes, a second bright point has popped up next to the other one. The sunspots are not developing much at this early cycle stage, but the signals of their readiness abound. Quick look at the solar wind. All telemetry is calm as the stream stabilizes, and geomagnetism finds a nice home in quiet conditions. Another larger quake yesterday. Luckily, this one struck well offshore, and there is no damage. Folks, the Nishinoshima volcano in Japan continues its activity. It's been a couple of weeks of her putting on a show with pictures here from the Japanese Meteorological Agency and their Coast Guard. Folks, the reports of last night's Midwest storm activity are slow to come in. It does stick out as the largest coherent storm system over the continent at the time. It continues eastward today. Let's get some more aesthetic items here before going to the articles and papers. IceSat and CryoSat have been able to do nearly simultaneous readings lately. They are teaming up as the polar surveyors in the Earth-observing fleet. Interesting bit of chemistry up first in the articles. They are shocked to find curium able to be changed under pressure, the very physical nature of the substance. It is normally quite resistant to any such changes, and it reminds us that we can't even really produce Earth power conditions in the lab. Imagine what happens when these elements are in asteroids and they dive into the sun. Now, something a bit more up our usual alley. They are continuing to notice the alignments between galaxies and their local filaments of the cosmic web. Interestingly, the closer to the spine or axis of the filament, the more randomized the orientation, but if they're closer to the periphery, the wall of the cosmic filament, then the alignments are far more noticeable. Folks, this next one is interesting. They say a partial nova. I say micronova. Indeed, a star survived a nova-like event that is less powerful than both the sun's recurrent micronova concept and the known superflare maximum ability of our sun. But it's still a kind of small nova. They know it blew off its outer layers, but they say that's about it. Then the nova stopped. They say the blast pushed it away from its binary, which they still can't find, and which I doubt exists because they've found 0 binaries at any recurrent nova and at many classical nova too. Either way, yet again their list of potential nova events from stars just got a little bigger, and again, this one is smaller than a couple of things we know the sun can do. Last but not least, folks, it's a much rarer topic, but one that could one day be the trigger of the worst of the catastrophe cycle. A length of day glitch, or as your brain might already put together from the name, a glitch in Earth's rotation. Most of the time so little you don't notice. They happen more often than you know. In this paper, they have once again shown that they are likely connected to geomagnetic jerks from Earth's core, while once again saying the modern models of the geodynamo don't well explain the phenomenon. Well, folks, there are actually 2 triggers you can find in the peer-reviewed literature over time. One are these core geomagnetic jerks, the other, major solar storms. Now, where this gets tricky is in the major solar blast that we were just discussing. We know that modern, average solar storms induce current to the mantle. Such induction could reach the core in a superflare or micronova, especially if it takes those conductive pathways downward, like the one we reported beneath China just a few days ago, if we observers will recall. That means the 2 known causes of these glitches in Earth's rotation could be delivered at the exact same time, and to a tremendous degree. Folks, over the centuries, many researchers, including Einstein, have died asking not if the Earth tilts, but what causes it to do so. I wonder if this is how she wobbles like a drunkard, and how the continental-sized waves are easily produced during the event. Don't forget, what keeps the crust from shifting on that liquid rock below is the low-velocity zone thermoelectric plasticity. Thermal and electric effects are what can disrupt that chemistry and unlock the crust, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Folks, we greatly appreciate your support. We've got wind map forecasts and shots of our star to close, and of course, we'll do this all again tomorrow. Right here, but right now, it's 5 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.